All right, welcome everybody. The Purple Perch, Tad and Tim here, and we are bringing it for the divisional round preview for the Baltimore Ravens. You see, I got it right here on the chest. We are ready to go. How you doing tonight, brother? I see you there. You got the background looking good. Everything's ready. You ready for this game? You mentally, spiritually, emotionally, physically ready for this? No.
I am fasting. I am doing. I may take a little retreat to a nearby monastery.
Smart
Just to get a good cleansing. Just to get ready for this. It's we've been talking about it a lot, and part of you looks forward to the experience of being in the playoffs and playing, and then the other part of you just can't wait for it to be over with. So you just know if you make it, to the next round, and the next round for us this year is significant. It's not. It's one step closer to the Super Bowl in a very big way. So,
yeah, agreed. I'm noticing that my lighting's a little bright tonight, so I apologize if I look like a serial killer lurking here in the show. But yeah, man, look, the pressure's on, right? I mean, it's one of those things where you love to be in this situation and you hate to be in this situation, right? It's like you want to play meaningful games in January. And then when you're there in that situation, it comes with that pressure, man, and you gotta love and embrace that pressure. And I'm sure you saw the quote from Roquan Smith talking about pressure, either busting pipes or making diamonds, and he feels like the Ravens are in the diamond making business. And that's what's needed, right? Like that's where you have to embrace it. It's not going away. It's not going anywhere. And we see it year after year, time after time, where young teams can make a run to the playoffs, but it's so rare that a really young, inexperienced team ends up going all the way through and winning the Super Bowl, because there are those levels of experience and really understanding. I mean, we see the Cowboys collapse when even the lights get moderately bright. And then when you think about, what it's like to be in a divisional round and an AFC Championship game and then a Super Bowl. Last week we were talking with Matt Stover, obviously former Ravens kicker, and he was talking about even in that situation, how different it is even trying to breathe when you're out there going to kick a football, kick a field goal or an extra point or anything in the Super Bowl. The pressure is so much greater. Yeah. And I really think that's a lot of times why defensive teams win Super Bowls, because the pressure is there on the offense already. And then when you're going against a really good defense, it just continues to ratchet up throughout the game. We talked about it a little bit last week about how you just can't make that mistake. And the Ravens are such a good defense. The longer the game goes, the harder it is for you to not make a mistake, right? It's like, we've been in Vegas and you walk up to a roulette table and you're like, man, okay, 00 just hit 3 straight times. There's no way it's going to hit again, right? It's like you start to play the odds, and it's like that on these offenses going against that Ravens defense, where it's like the longer it goes, the greater the likelihood that they're going to make a play or force that turnover, whatever it is, to change the momentum, and you're just gambling throughout that game on how much risk can I take versus the reward.
Well, and looking at the team we're playing against, we first game of the year we beat them, and it wasn't even that much of a ball game, but this is a different team now, and Stroud has matured just exponentially over the course of the year, and so now you can't go in. I mean, we talked about this before, Just because you blew out a team in the regular season does not mean you're going to have any kind of success against them in the playoffs. And I think we're a different team. I don't think we're taking this game lightly. I think it's at home. We were embarrassed in 2019, just truly embarrassed. But I think we matured a good bit. I don't think it'll be a blowout. I mean, I'd be shocked if it was a blowout. Yeah. I think it's going to be a very closely contested game, and honestly, it wouldn't surprise me if we have to come from behind to win it. I think the Texans are the kind of team that are playing with house money. Mm-hmm. I think there was no expectation for them to even make the playoffs, let alone advance in the playoffs. So I think for them, they are just happy to be here. And if they get to go one more step, great. If not, it's been a successful year for them. Where I think we're looking at this thing going, if we don't make it all the way to the Super Bowl, this is a failure, and a significant mark on Lamar's career to date.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, I saw something the other day. I'm going to throw this out there. We don't have to spend a lot of time talking about it because I think it's going to be it's an interesting debate, and it won't be the thing that we're going to spend all the time talking about. But this could be a very interesting off-season conversation. Let's assume for a moment that Lamar Jackson wins his second MVP this year. If he wins the Super Bowl this year, is he already a Hall of Famer?
Yeah.
So he's already a Hall of Famer with 2 MVPs and a Super Bowl win. He just turned 27 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He's already a Hall of Famer at this point.
I think so. I think if you get in that 2 MVP category, that's rare.
Yeah.
That's rare. So if you tack on the Super Bowl on top of that, I mean, is anybody going to argue that Dan Marino should not be over the course of his career should not be, a Hall of Famer? And so I think we're still early in Lamar's career. If his trajectory continues the way it's going now, obviously he's going to finish as, probably one of the top 5 quarterbacks of all time if this trajectory keeps going like it's going.
Yeah.
But you never know.
Let's say hypothetically, let's flip it, right? Let's do the hypothetical. Let's say he wins the Super Bowl, but if something happens and his career, God forbid, were to end. Is he a Hall of Famer? Would he have done enough with 2 MVPs, 1 unanimous? We don't know if this year's MVP will be, but at least 1 unanimous, possibly 2 unanimous MVPs, and a Super Bowl win. Is that alone? And of course, obviously, the records that he's broken and things like that. Is that alone enough?
Yeah, I think so. Because we had the same conversation with Mahomes a couple of years ago. Like, if his career ended right now, is it enough for him to be an MVP? Hall of Fame. Absolutely, I think so. I think just because a player's career got cut short because of injury or some other tragedy doesn't mean that he. Would he be a first ballot? Maybe that you could argue that. Maybe he's not a first ballot, but I think if he has 2 MVPs in the Super Bowl and the records he's already set to date, I think he'd be hard pressed to keep him out.
Yeah, no, I think that makes sense. I lean toward agreeing.
Well, because your only argument is really going to be longevity, and that's not really an argument to make.
I think the
Hall of Fame.
Some people would make would be, well, what about passing yards? And he wasn't a great pocket quarterback until. In this scenario, it would have been at the last season of his career, that he would have really been a great pocket quarterback and put up, impressive throwing yard. But at the same time, man, if you're a 2-time MVP and a Super Bowl champ, at the most important position in the game, you got to figure.
Well, yeah, but pocket passing isn't the sole metric for a Hall of Famer. So it is. There's a lot to go on that. Winning. Obviously, going to be the winningest quarterback in Ravens history. He's going to break. He's not that far off from breaking all of the Ravens quarterback records, and so I think it'd be an asinine contradiction to say he's not there yet. Because really, I think the only thing you're going to push back on is longevity at this point. Well, he's only been in the league this many years, but that's anyway.
Crazy, though, to think that, it's only, I don't even remember now, 5. This is his 5th year. 5 years in the NFL, and he's a Hall of Famer at this point. Or could be, in the event he were to win a Super Bowl this year. That's such a rarity. Because if he didn't win the Super Bowl this year, is he still a Hall of Famer in your mind?
That would be a little bit more of a...
It's a little tougher.
It's a little tougher. If he does not win the Super Bowl this year, I think he will still end up being a Hall of Fame quarterback. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Even if he does not, if his career is not cut short and he continues on. Now it's the Cam Newton argument though, right? It's the 15-1, make it to the Super Bowl, breaking all kinds of records, seemed like you had a complete game, and then just off the edge of a cliff. His career just tanked after that Super Bowl, and so. He's the guy that peaked early. I don't know that Lamar has. I think him having a second year like 2019 in this year has proven that it wasn't just a one-hit wonder. That if you, like any quarterback, really, you give them weapons,
Yeah.
You're going to be great. If you take off McCaffrey and Debo and these guys from Purdy,
Yeah.
I guarantee he's not going to be I'm not sure he's the guy that's going like, I'm going to throw this team to a victory.
Right.
With third stringers. So give him Lamar's roster last year. He'd be hard pressed, I think, to even make the playoffs, let alone advance. So I mean, it's hats off to the Ravens organization as a whole, though, for how we've really turned the corner with how we've resourced Lamar with weapons, and even losing top weapons like Mitchell and of course Mark Andrews and J.K. Dobbins. And we still had enough offensive depth to give him enough firepower to make it happen. So I mean, yeah.
Yeah, hats off to Eric DaCosta, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I like, if he's not executive of the year this year, I'm not 100% sure who else it would go to. I mean, this is as impressive. And I say this because let's go back, right? He got that deal done with Lamar. And that was a standoff that was uncomfortable for everyone involved. And then he got that done. Then he signs, Nelson Aguilar, Odell Beckham, and then the other people, how well we hit on that draft. Who knew that Isaiah Likely was going to end up being as crucial as he's been with the injury to Mark Andrews, who traditionally didn't have, an injury history. And, the way these guys have hit and the free agency moves that, I mean, again, Jadeveon Clowney, these guys, these pieces, Kyle Van Noy that DaCosta has found, really, and not only great players, but fit the system, the organization so well. It's impressive, man.
Well, and you're going to look at the Texans front office is probably going to be in the conversation because you brought in D'Amico, you had a killer trade, even just with Deshaun.
Yeah,
that really set you up last year for the draft to be just bringing a haul of picks that completely turned around your franchise. So if anybody takes it from DaCosta, I could see it. I could see it going the Texans' way.
Yeah, that makes sense. So let's talk a little bit about the betting lines here for this game, the divisional round here between the Ravens and Texans. Baltimore's a 9.5-point favorite. And the total over-under here is 43.5. So two things. What do you think about the 9.5-point favorite for Baltimore? And then what do you think about the 43.5 over-under line there?
I think 6 points feels more realistic. I think getting over 7 points, man, that scares me because I think we have a mature team. I don't think they're going into this thing going, oh, we're 9-point favorites. We can take a couple plays off. I think it's more our issue than their issue. Right. But it seems high. That seems high.
Yeah, I don't disagree. I mean, when you think about the fact the Texans just came off of putting up 40-some points against the Browns, to put Baltimore as a 9.5-point favorite, it feels a little high to me as well. And then when you look at an over/under of 43.5, man, if that's the line, if the line's 43.5, then you're either expecting one team to put up 30-some points to 10, or you're thinking that there's going to be two, 20-some point teams here. I mean, it's either a close game because everyone scored 20-some, or it's a huge blowout and somebody racked up a lot of points. And you're clearly betting on the Ravens putting up the blowout, which sounds great in theory, but, look, the Texans are a well-rounded team. They definitely got some people's attention in the wild card round now.
Yeah.
So I was a little surprised. Long story short, a little surprised to see 9.5.
Well, and they're a well-coached team.
Absolutely.
And so I definitely surprised at the 9.5. I expected somewhere around that 6 range. But yeah, you're right. It's either going to be like it's going to be a 23-20 score, or it's going to be a 2-3. Yeah, it's going to be a 3-score difference. So now, obviously, we would hope that it would be a 3-score difference on the favor of the Ravens. But if anything taught us to temper our expectations, it's the 2019 debacle that still has wounded my soul.
Yes, the debacle at the bank.
The debacle at the bank. Oh, man.
Well, look, here's a couple other small things here. The Ravens are 9-3 against the spread in their last 12 playoff games. The Texans are 7-2 against their spread in the last 9 contests when they came in as underdogs. So, for whatever that means. But if you look at the Ravens in the playoffs,
Yeah.
9-3 against the spread in their last 12 means that the betting lines are pretty accurate with the Ravens traditionally, right? So that's impressive. Now, a couple of things I wanted to throw out statistically that I thought were kind of impressive and important to note here as we start to dive into some of the details on this game. Baltimore obviously being the number 1 seed. The Ravens were 6th in the NFL in total offense, 4th in scoring, 1st in rushing. They led the league in points allowed, sacks, and takeaways. So we know about that triple crown defense. They ranked 3rd in interceptions, 6th in total defense and passing defense. And so, when you look at that, man, that's a well-rounded team. I mean, that's where you want to be. That's what you're hoping to be able to have out of a team.
Yeah. Well, and I think the difference between this year and 2019, we leaned heavy on the run to set up the pass. Where I feel like this year we're not fully reliant on that run game to set up the pass. I feel like we can set up the pass in its own right. Which is where the Titans got us. They're like, well, fine, you're going to have to pass. We're gonna put 37 guys in the box. We're going to bring people from out of the stands.
Family members.
It doesn't matter. We're going to put everybody, and we're going to stop the run, and we're going to make a green Lamar Jackson beat us with the pass. I think this year, if you do that, you're going to get hurt. I think you're going to get burned. And even on the blitz, they blitz. God, it was a god awful amount that game. I don't recall the stat, but it was majority.
It was like 60% of the snaps they were blitzing. I mean, it was an absurd number.
Yeah.
No respect.
Well, and rightfully so. We couldn't. We didn't.
Yeah.
We didn't do anything to. So yeah, I think this year it's a little different in that respect. Now, I think when you start looking at the Texans, their rankings, you could easily go, okay, I get that you're a 9-point favorite because you're middle of the pack across the board. Like there's nothing aside from CJ Stroud. There's nothing outstanding about your team. However, you go back to 2010, you could probably say some of that about the Titans then as well. Well, aside from Derrick Henry, there's really nothing outstanding about your squad. But
yeah, I mean Ryan Tannehill. I mean, what did you throw for 80 yards in that game or something? I mean, it's just
80, threw for 86 yards. We beat ourselves that game, and I think that will be the fear right now. Is that they don't necessarily do anything to dominate us. We just are our own worst enemy, and that's very, very possible in the NFL on any given Sunday.
Yeah,
I mean the Cowboys have proven that since 95.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, look, that covers kind of the betting line side of it. I have some other stats and some interesting things that I've found. I don't know if you want to jump into those yet or just kind of talk a little bit about where we see the game going in general. But one thing I wanted to touch on here was the uniforms. So it's been released what uniforms the Ravens are going to be wearing. And look, I mean, with the purple jerseys and the black pants. Ravens are undefeated when wearing those uniforms. Now, undefeated sounds good. It's 2-0. However, one of the teams that they beat when wearing those was the Texans when they beat them 20-13 in the divisional round of the 2012 playoffs.
I remember that well.
Yes. And so, that was in that game, Ravens defense forced 4 turnovers in that game. Ladarius Webb intercepted this. Let's go back in the Wayback Machine here. Ladarius Webb intercepted Texans quarterback TJ Yates twice, and Ed Reed added a 3rd interception. And Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs had each had another for pass breakups, and so 10 total passes defended. And Flacco threw 2 touchdowns in there as well. So look, I mean, if it were to go like that game again, nobody's going to complain other than people to bet the over. Outside of that, it's a win across the board if you're forcing those kind of turnovers.
Yeah, and the game was still closer than it was comfortable. It was a 20-13 win. Our offense, I mean, Flacco had just 2 touchdowns, but given the turnover ratio and given how stellar our defense was, we really did not. It should have been much higher. That was a game that I felt like even with all of the defensive pressure we were bringing, still could have gone either way.
Yeah.
And that was a little bit scary with that game. And I feel like this game, there's a couple matchups. All right. I think for this game we need to pay attention to.
Yeah.
First one is Darby.
Mm-hmm.
Ronald Darby stepping in. Now, he has done outstanding. He has done out more than we could have hoped for. He's done outstanding. But I want to give you some stats here for Lamar, first of all. So Lamar Jackson against the Texans coverage schemes. Now the Texans typically line up on a cover 3, cover 4, including some variations of those two things. On over half of their snaps this season. So it's like the 4th highest in the league that they are lining up at a cover 3 or cover 4. Lamar has earned a 73.6 passing grade against cover 3 and a league best 92.8 passing grade against a cover 4.
Wow.
So it seems like he's going to play really well against what they're going to bring. Now, DeMeco Ryans, no joke. I'm a big DeMeco fan.
Yeah.
I think he may bring, he's going to bring some surprises. But I think we are set up well for that. I think the other element is going to be our pass rush. Now, they have a 4-time Pro Bowler on their end. I think, just as much as you're looking at Darby going up against Nico Collins and can he hold his own? Nico's 1,100 yards this year. And a lot of the reason that he is able to achieve what he's achieved this year is because of 4-time Pro Bowler Laramie Tunsil. And so this dude is a beast. He is, you could look at him and go, you are the reason. You are the singular reason that CJ Stroud is doing as good as he's doing because you are that good. Yeah. So him against our pass rush. Now our pass rush is brutal in the best possible way. Of the 10 players, on the Ravens roster who have rushed the passer 100 or more times this season, 7 have earned a pass rushing grade of 70 or better. And so we are extremely effective. Obviously, our stats show it. We're extremely effective against with the pass rush. It's going to be our creativity on the pass rush. Now, the beautiful thing is we're not just bringing it from one person. Like there are so many guys on our team that can rush. So I think Laramie will hold his own. He obviously can't guard everybody, and we're going to zero in on the weak link on their offensive line, and I think we're just going to keep hammering it.
Yeah, I'll be curious. I don't disagree with you about Ronald Darby. Brandon Stevens is going to be playing, a big role. We now know Marlon Humphrey's not playing in this game, or at least it is barring some miracle, it isn't happening that Marlon Humphrey's going to play in this game. You hate to be out at this time, with him. That's tough, particularly after 2 weeks off. But it's a calf thing, and if sitting out one more week gets him back, and if we're able to get to the AFC Championship game, man, you're going to need him there. And I don't care if it's Kansas City or Buffalo, you're going to need him. So,
it was 3 weeks off, really, right? Because I don't think he played against the Steelers.
Oh, yeah, you might be right.
So that week heading to the Steelers, he had off.
Yeah.
Then he had off the week after the Steelers, and then he had a week leading up into this game. So,
right.
Clearly it was much more significant than we expected. And I think it's great that we can look at Darby's production over the course of the year, though, and go, we're okay. We're okay. We're okay.
Yeah, if you look at the secondary with Ronald Darby, Brandon Stevens, Marcus Williams, and Kyle Hamilton, you're going to feel pretty darn good, about that going into any game. And again, that's with a Marlon Humphrey sitting out. So it's, it's a strong team, obviously incredibly well coached, incredibly, well schemed. And there's no doubt DeMeco Ryans is a great defensive coach, defensive coordinator. But look, Mike McDonald's no slouch. So, let's not assume that Mike McDonald's not going to have some good things dialed up for the Ravens as well. And I don't know that you're going to catch CJ Stroud off guard, right? The guy's good enough. He's reading defenses well enough that I don't think you're going to just confuse him. I think the only thing that you can do is pressure him into making throws he shouldn't make. And that pressure is Is he throwing it a half second too early, a half second too late, a half second, a little bit off his back foot, these types of things where his timing is off. Disrupting his timing is going to be an important part of that process. So the sacks are going to be great, but they probably won't tell the whole story in this game. Mm-hmm. I think the time to throw and the strength of their pocket is going to play a huge role.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I'm really curious how we are going to bracket in Nico, because he is really going to be your biggest downfield threat.
Yeah.
I'm curious what we're going to do there.
Yeah, I'm going to guess that you're going to see a lot of Marcus Williams. I'm going to just take a guess that there will be probably at least 4 times this game that Kyle Hamilton will be blitzing from that safety position. Now, whether or not he gets home or not, even though they can go down, I still think they can go downfield. I still think at least 4 times this game we will see Kyle Hamilton blitzing. And he has a tendency to get home. Those are effective. And he's just a lanky dude, man. He's long, he's got incredibly long arms. I mean, he's just disruptive out there. So tipped passes are going to be an important part of this game as well. That's going to be something to keep out for. Our offensive line needs to get their hands up in the air.
Well, and Stroud has gotten a lot better at throwing it downfield. Now, this is where we dominated the first game of the year. Now, this is week 1, and so he is
practically
obviously
preseason.
He's obviously a completely different player now. Week 1, he's 28 for 44, 242 yards, no touchdowns, no interceptions, but really nothing else to speak about. They said we kept him from throwing it deep. Now, we had Marlon then, so that's a different story. But 31 of Stroud's 44 attempts were between 0 and 9 yards. And he went 0 for 2 on 20+. So, again, first game of the year, you probably got nerves. You're just trying to figure out the speed of the NFL game, and you're playing against arguably the best defense in the NFL. Certainly the most aggressive, I would say, in terms of just physicality. So I'm curious to see what he does. I think he's going to take it deep. He's been lights out the last 3-4 games that he's been back
since he came back. Since he came back from his injury. I mean, he was great before his injury too, and then since he came back, he just picked up right where he left off.
So here's a stat for Stroud. He is the only player with 1,000+ passing yards and 0 interceptions on deep passes this season. Sheesh. So he's no joke. Second in completion percentage, pass yards, in the pass touchdown to interception ratio, 8-0, and passer rating, 142.8 on deep passes.
On deep passes. He has a 142.8 quarterback rating on deep throws. Wow.
8 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 1,057 passing yards, 58% completion percentage. So clearly he shook off the rust from game 1. He was like, forget this, I'm chucking it. And so either we just did an outstanding job taking that away from him, or it was just something he had to mature into as the season went on. I would probably say the latter more than the former. But we'll see. We'll see how he does on the deep ball.
Well, look, it's going to be interesting, man. And I'm going to set stats aside for a second. I have a couple things that I'll close the show with, but just talking about the game itself, right? And like getting to this point. If you're a Ravens fan, in this situation, I mean, think about the turmoil in the offseason, the Lamar situation. Not knowing if he was going to be back, having to envision him on another team, trying to think through what things were going to be looking like. Still relatively new, defensive coordinator, brand new offensive coordinator. Yeah. And the idea, and again, I touched on this a little bit earlier, and I'm going to broaden this a little bit more. What Eric DaCosta was able to do as general manager of this team with an experienced head coach, but a very young defensive coordinator and a brand new offensive coordinator with a multitude of new players that he was able to find the right personalities, the right people to plug in. And then so much credit has to go to John Harbaugh. The ability to manage this team, again, with two new coordinators and an ever-evolving and changing offense that has literally been unfolding in front of us as the season has gone on.
Complicated offense, too. It's not an easy offense. Yeah.
No, and it's just we've seen it unfolding, and it's just becoming more complex, and there are more wrinkles to it. Yeah. And what it's had, though, is it has the Ravens peaking seemingly at exactly the right time.
Yeah.
Like, there were all of these close games throughout the season, and these games where, I mean, you and I would be texting going, geez, what is going on? How is this still close? Or, why? And like, but now you're seeing that, they learned how to play in a lot of close games. They don't panic. And I think one thing that has jumped out to me about Todd Monken is you really feel going through a game like Todd Monken is watching the game itself and calling plays based on the game flow versus just having a scripted sheet and saying this is what we're running. And when you see those second half adjustments that are getting made, it just feels like in real time that synchronicity between him and Lamar, between Monken and Lamar, has been incredible because Lamar can go up to the line. He can see something, in the defense. He can change the play. 9 times out of 10, it works. It works because he's changing to another Monken play. He's not just saying, I'm going to change and then scramble it like what would happen in the past. He's changing to another, diagrammed play, and the complexity is really, really good. And so, they've been very, very effective. Yeah,
you add that to Lamar's ability to create on the fly. And that's very hard to guard against. I mean, if you have a coaching that's that competent to be able to script really well against a defense, and you have a Lamar Jackson who's able to, when things do, just go to hell, then he's able to pivot real time. That's impressive.
Yeah, no, it is. And I think, so again, hats off to Harbaugh, but also just as a Ravens fan, going through this season, it started as a season of, we don't know what we have. We don't know what we're going to get. We don't know what's going to happen with Odell. We don't know, how this offense with this new offensive coordinator and all of these things, how it's going to come together. Well, it's come together.
A lot of new pieces. A lot of new pieces. And it took all of 13, 14 weeks for it to come together. I think, you hear about this all the time in championship teams. I like to think of like the early 2000s Pistons, that you would look at it and go, man, like they beat the Lakers that were stacked, with Karl Malone and Shaq and Kobe and Gary Payton. Like they had a Hall of Fame team, and yet the Pistons won without any clear superstar, but they just had this team, we don't care who gets the credit mindset. Yeah. And you see that occasionally in sports where a team has truly become absolutely selfless. And truly does rejoice in the success of somebody else on their team, even if it's not. Now, we see all the prima donna stuff over the years, right? You get your wide receivers that are like, I don't care if we win, I need to get the ball. It's great that we won, but I should have had 100 yards. You see
Let's
that.
Face it, they're seeing a lot of that in Pittsburgh right now. They're seeing an awful lot of that behavior in Pittsburgh right now. Just want to throw that in there.
And we don't have that. I think we are truly in a place that, like, and I think it is, yes, coaching and leadership, 100%, but not just Harbs. I mean, I think on the defensive side of the ball, you look at Roquan, little Ro, and he is one of those culture shifting players that comes into a team, and he has just a force of personality and a force of will to just rally everybody around him. And then you look at Lamar, who may not be as outspoken, but from what everybody says, leads by example. Yeah. And so on the offensive side. And so I think it's one of those really rare moments where you go, man, everybody on this team is truly unified in the best sense of the word. And I'm excited and fearful at the same time.
I couldn't agree with you more. I think the other thing, too, that I wanted to throw out, because I noticed this the other day, Roquan Smith is only 26 years old. It feels like he's been in the league for a while.
It does.
Before he ever came to us. Like, you feel like this is a guy who is at the pinnacle or maybe even starting to slide over to the back nine of his career, but that's not the case at all. This is a guy who is very much in and or entering his prime. And again, I mean, what a move. What a move. I was begging, as you know, predicting this move, predicting that the Ravens would sign Roquan Smith for such a year before it happened. I just felt like it was the right fit, the right person. Yeah. And it has gone even better.
And we did. We talked about it the previous year. We had talked about it the previous year. Yes. We were like, man, it'd be great to get Roquan. It didn't happen that year. And then you know, we never thought it would happen. And nor should we. Like, why would who would give him up? You know what I'm saying? Like, he's the kind of guy that if you are rebuilding, you want him on your team to rebuild around.
Yeah,
he's not the guy. He's not the guy you ship off. And so that's that part was baffling to us, but man, are we thankful for it.
Yeah, I mean, to give you an idea, Roquan Smith, and I don't want to belabor this point here, but I mean, his first year with the Bears was 2018. So he played 2018, 19, 20, and they exercised his fifth-year option in 21. And I mean, it's just incredible that move was able to make. To remind people of the trade for Roquan Smith, the Ravens gave up A.J. Klein, a 2023 second-round pick, and a 2023 fifth-round pick. Mm-hmm. And Roquan was named AFC Defensive Player of the Month for December when he came over to the Ravens. And he was a first-team All-Pro. A second-rounder, a fifth-rounder, and A.J. Klein for Roquan Smith, who, I mean, could not fit into the DNA and the footprint of the Ravens any better if he tried. I mean, this is a guy who is so much in that mold of, he's like the perfect combination of Ray Lewis and Terrell Suggs. A guy who has the character, the skill set, but is also, you know, not overly well-spoken. I mean, not overly outspoken, I meant to say.
Outspoken, yeah.
Not overly outspoken. Yeah, very well-spoken. Not overly outspoken, but incredibly smart. And just an assassin, man. And it's amazing to have him on the team.
Well, and you're obviously they were going to have to pay that dude. But here's the thing. He had so 2021, his last full season with the Bears, he had 95 solo tackles and 68 assists. How do you a machine? So then he plays half a season the following his fifth year, plays half a season. When they traded him to Baltimore, he already had 52 tackles.
There's probably 3 games in.
8 close. So 8 games in, he had 51 solo and 31 assists. God. So he had 83 tackles 8 games into the year with the Bears. And as obviously we know the Bears aren't a great franchise. Yeah. You know, they're not a great organization for whatever reason. They just can't seem to make really intelligent moves, because the intelligent move goes like, we will let everybody else go. Yes. We've got to keep Roquan. Like, we've got to keep that dude. But man, talk about the perfect Raven. Perfect Raven. Yeah. I mean, he cannot say enough about him. He's the perfect Raven. He is the perfect complement to Lamar's soft-spokenness. Then you have Roquan, who does not shy away from the trash talk.
No, he loves it, and loves the pressure, and embraces it. And I think, when you have somebody, and it is important because we do have a young team still, when you have somebody that embraces that pressure, when you're a young player, that can be really impactful because your natural inclination, just human nature, is to feel that pressure and tense up and get more anxious and potentially make that mistake. And sometimes you make the mistake just because you were so worried that you might make the mistake. You were trying so hard not to make it that's why you made it. And when you have a guy who is one of, if not the best at his position, who is bringing it on, wanting the pressure, then I do think that takes that that stress that can be on a younger player and turns it into confidence.
Yeah.
Because they're going to follow in his footsteps and they're going to follow along. And we see guys, man, having career years.
Yep.
I mean, let's look at a Ronald Darby, like you mentioned. Let's look at a Brandon Stevens. Let's look at a Geno Stone. I mean, these guys are having Jadeveon Clowney, Kyle Van Noy. Like, it's everywhere, man, because it's infectious. And the other thing is when you have, and let's not overlook the impact on Patrick Queen as well.
I was just going to say like that. I mean, a Pro Bowler this year, so his whole reputation in Baltimore had been he's soft.
Yeah.
He's a soft player and he's almost invisible. I mean, he'll have an occasional really good game, but they're not really mentioning his name a lot before Roquan. You bring Roquan. So I think that's the biggest. I mean, you and I have talked about this. Roquan's my favorite player since probably Ed Reed for the Ravens. And Hamilton is quickly, gosh, that dude's good. But you take Roquan, I think his biggest asset to the Ravens isn't the 175,000 tackles he's going to have. It is the fact that he is raising the raising the play of everybody else. He's the thermostat. You know what I'm saying? Yep. So hey, predictions.
Oh, buddy. Scary, man. Scary. It's always scary. And just to be clear for anyone who's listening, our fear is not about the Texans.
Yeah.
Because we'd be saying the exact same thing if we were playing the Browns, if we were playing the Bills, if we were playing the Dolphins. It wouldn't matter who we were playing. It's just the fear, the nervousness that comes with that pressure. Because we don't have a Roquan Smith in our life who's getting us hyped up for this game and making that pressure turn into confidence. For us, it's just suffocating pressure that we're collapsing
We're bringing each other down is what we're doing. We're lowering the tide. We're not raising
fumbling things all over the place. No, but look, I think prediction-wise, score. I'm gonna say that this is like I could feel this being like a 28-17 Ravens win, somewhere in that range. Mm-hmm. I think there are two things that jump out at me. Number one is I do think the Ravens will want to make a statement on defense because the Texans have been getting attention for their defense, and after the game that they had last week, I can see the Ravens kind of wanting to say, like, that was cute. This is real defense, right? And want to make a statement on that. And so I don't think it needs to be 50 points put up by Lamar Jackson in the offense. So I'm feeling like, 28-17, 31-17, but I'll go 28-17 Ravens win.
Yeah, I'm gonna say 27-20.
Okay.
I think it's going to be a relatively close game, not because we're bad, but I think CJ Stroud is going to show up. I think he's going to have a couple big plays downfield. Clearly he can. With his stats, his deep pass stats speak for themselves. Yeah. And really the only team this year that he didn't do well against was us on the deep ball. And so
I'm picking the Texans to win then. Is that correct?
You shut your mouth. You shut your mouth.
I just wanted to be clear. I want to be clear for anyone listening.
Shut your mouth.
You hadn't said who was winning. I just want to double check.
Yes, clearly. All right, so I'm going to say 27-20 Ravens. Who's your standout offensive player and your standout defensive player that's going to make the biggest impact for both teams?
Good Lord. Okay. So I'll have to think through it a little bit, but I can tell you, I'm gonna go Kyle Hamilton on defense.
Okay.
I don't know. I just feel a tipped ball interception happening. I can just my spidey senses are tingling around Kyle Hamilton for this game. So
I like it.
I can see some good things there. On the offensive side, that's going to be an interesting one. I think a lot of people, and I see it, on X, people were talking about, really hyping up Odell Beckham for this game and stuff. Mm-hmm. I've really been torn on two different players for this game on the offensive side.
Okay.
One of them is actually Rashad Bateman.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like Bateman has been trending up very steadily. And I think there's a really good chance, particularly if Mark Andrews gets some snaps in this game, the stress that's going to put on a defense, Bateman's going to have to be the odd man out at times on coverage. He's going to have to be the guy that ends up being open. They're going to be too worried about the tight end. They're going to be too worried about Odell or Zay Flowers. So I just feel like Bateman could get a touchdown in there and surprise some people. So I'm going to say Bateman ends up with he's probably going to be about 80 yards and a touchdown. So
okay.
I was really torn because I was going to say Bateman or Gus Edwards. I think Gus Edwards could really help us control the game in this one, which is going to be important. But I think I'll stick with Bateman and call Bateman 80 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, I was going with Gus. I think there's been a lot of comparison. I was looking at the Houston Texans Facebook page, and they were comparing our offensive players versus the Texans' offensive players. And so they're showing obviously like Nico versus Zay, CJ versus Lamar, and so this looking at it, they're going like, hey, we have a better, in their mind, they have a better offense and they have better skill positions. I would say that our depth is probably greater.
Yeah.
Now I think Gus the Bus is going to have the game. I think he's probably going to have 60 to 70 receiving yards, and probably another 50 to. I'm telling you, I think he's going to have another 50 to 60 rushing yards. So I think he's going to have an all-around stellar game because I think they're going to try their best to shut down Zay. He has shown that he has big play potential, and he's proved that the last probably month of the season, how hard he is to play against. Yeah. I think just because of how he elevates his game, Odell, I think they're going to zero in on Odell because they know that he can elevate in the playoffs, and he does play his best ball in big games. So I think they're going to automatically try to take away those guys. That's going to leave that if Lamar is patient enough to accept the check down pass to his running back, I think it's going to be Gus who keeps the chains moving. So I'm going to say Gus on the defensive side of the ball. I'm going to give it to Madubuike.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Justin Madubuike, a defensive player of the game for you. Or standout of the game. Yeah, for you.
Standout. I say he has 2 sacks. And nice. I think he's going to I think it's going to be 2 sacks, and I think he's going to pressure a turnover. So that's going to be my crazy prediction. I think for the Texans, I think we're going to zero in on Nico, and I think the standout player for the Texans offense is going to be Dalton Schultz.
It's easy to see them going to the tight end position quite a bit.
Brevin Jordan, who's made some big plays. So I think from the tight end spot, I think the tight end spot's going to be big. If it's not Dalton, I think if we have struggled anywhere this year, it's been against the run. So I think you could look at Singletary potentially having a decent game against us if we're not able to lock him down.
Yeah, and I wasn't too sure who was going to be carrying the ball the most there between Dameon Pierce and Devin Singletary. But assuming it's Singletary, I was thinking the same thing on the running game in general for them is going to be an area. And, it's going to be an interesting scenario there to be able to say, like, what do they do running the ball? But yeah, I was going the running side as well. But I agree with you on the Dalton Schultz thing. I think the tight end is going to be good for them. And particularly, again, going back to what I said in the beginning about speeding CJ up. When you see a quarterback sped up and he gets uncomfortable, he's going to his biggest target, right?
Yeah.
If he has to rush a pass, any quarterback, Lamar's the same way, right? There's a reason that he goes traditionally to Mark Andrews, Isaiah Likely that we've seen since Andrews has been out. When you're under pressure, that's the biggest dude on the field, man. Just throw the ball in that direction. And Dalton Schultz is not a bad tight end at all. So, he's a good security blanket to be able to have. So, I could definitely see that happening as well.
Here's the other last big question for me. What jersey are you wearing?
This is a tough one. This is challenging on a lot of different levels. So I will give you my personal jersey process. I am someone who matches the jersey that I wear to whatever the team is wearing. So if it's a home game, I'm wearing a purple jersey. If it's a road game, I'm wearing the white jersey. Which is why, I have you actually got it for me. The camo Lamar Jackson, the salute to service jersey, which I wear that, I work that in when I can, but I so closely match and mirror the, what the team wears that it's tough. And I also have a black Lamar jersey. I'm hoping, and there's been a lot of debate and dispute about whether or not you can wear alternate uniforms in the playoffs. And I've seen so many people debating this on X. Some people say you can, some people say you can't, some people say you can, but only one time. Some people were saying they wanted to see us go all black for this game. I say you hold all black for the AFC Championship game 100%. If you're going to be able to do it.
100%.
So I believe, though, for this game, I will likely be wearing my black Lamar jersey, but I will be holding my purple Ed Reed jersey.
Okay.
As a rally jersey. Picture it like a better, cooler, nicer version of the terrible towel.
Yeah, I got you.
Yeah. So that's probably where I'll go. I do have a purple Justin Tucker jersey as well. But I think I will go old school on this and look at a player who unfortunately did play a little bit for the Texans. And as the ultimate double agent, I'm going to say I will probably go black Lamar Jackson jersey, and then purple Ed Reed as a rally jersey.
Gotcha. I am going to go legendary status. It's going to be the purple Ray Lewis jersey.
Nice.
With the white Roquan thrown around the neck.
Nice. There you
so
go.
It is going to be defense all the way for me. And also, I'm going to throw on the Super Bowl lanyard from 2012.
Wow, that's early. For the divisional round, you're breaking out the Super Bowl.
Lamar's never gotten out of the divisional round, so I feel like I feel like he's going to need all the help he can get to get this monkey off his back. So if this comes off, I'm not busting out the Super Bowl streamers. I got those.
Right.
There's other elements I'm not going to pull out yet.
Got my Super Bowl programs and everything else. I got them all.
Yep. I think if we get there, I'm over here looking at my the Times Picayune with Ed Reed from our Super Bowl visit. So I think if we make it to the AFC Championship game, I'm probably going to have that newspaper sitting out as well.
Nice.
It's and then I'm probably also going to pass out at some point from just hyperventilating and fear.
Well, I told you about my jersey, and it's not just the jerseys, right? So, I will have my Ravens socks on. I have a few different pairs of Ravens socks. I will also be having my Ravens Nikes being worn as well. You see, nice and fresh and clean, ready to go for this game. So, I will be fully suited up for this one. I'll have the Ravens shoes on, Ravens socks on, Ravens long sleeve, purple possibly white. I got to see what the players do, but it will be either a long sleeve purple or white shirt under the jersey as well. So this is going to be, and I may throw a Ravens hat on. Also, I'm known to do that a time or two.
Now, not to bring in the negative energy, just one final question: we get to the end of the night on Saturday, and the Ravens lose. What's going through your mind?
Whether or not my roof is tall enough to definitely kill me when I jump off of
it. Sure.
Yeah, that's the question. There's not enough traffic in my neighborhood to guarantee that I'll get hit by a car and killed. So, look, if the unimaginable were to happen, I'll just be glad I didn't go. Because I was there in the 2019 game against the Titans, and it was brutal, heartbreaking, horrible feeling leaving that stadium and walking back, and it was just terrible. And I considered going to this game. I'm probably going to the AFC Championship game if we make it. So I will be glad that I didn't go to this game. But it'll be tough. It'll be tough to lose this because it feels like it's all lined up really well for the Ravens this year. It feels like it's all come together. It's an off year for the Chiefs. They're not on top of their game. I feel like the door is pretty open. If it's not going to be this year, I'm not sure when it's going to be. we have to admit the fact that there's a decent chance we're going to lose some members of the coaching staff. I mean, we've seen so many, not just Mike McDonald and Todd Monken interviewing for head coaching roles, but Anthony Weaver as well, Chris Hewitt. I mean, we're seeing people getting interviews, quite a few. Joe Ortiz is getting some general manager interviews as well. So, I mean, this was what happens, right? You win a bunch of games and everyone wants to steal from you. And so, you know, we're probably going to see some erosion. We've had an MVP season from our quarterback. We've had an historic defense, and we got the number 1 seed the first round bye. Everything is lined up. It would be really challenging to lose this, and it's very possible to lose it. It's very possible, but it will be difficult to deal with.
And even if we make it, if we were to make it to the Super Bowl, still very possible to lose it, because I think the game against I think it'll be the 49ers in the Super Bowl. I mean, barring it somehow. I mean, the only reason they didn't make it last year was injury. You know and of course you saw the Philadelphia Eagles get gutted in their coaching staff and how it affected them this year.
That's right.
And so, we may make the playoffs again next year, but will Odell re-sign with us? If we don't win a Super Bowl, probably not. If we do win a Super Bowl, probably. You know, I think there's a good many players we can keep. And of course, you bring back Keaton Mitchell, and then hopefully J.K. Dobbins can have some sort of longevity in the year. If he's able to make it back. But yeah, you're right. But when we lost in 2012, it was the Lee Evans drop, the Billy Cundiff miss. Yeah. I did not expect it to come back from, like, that's heartbreak. Yeah. You know, you finally beat the Patriots in New England, and I still think that Lee Evans I still think it was a catch. But they But Cundiff still could have sent it in overtime. Doesn't mean we would have won. That was probably the most heartbreak I'd ever had.
Yeah.
Even
it was
more
the double part of it. It was that's a catch. Wait, it's not a catch. Okay, well at least we have the field goal,
30-yard goal.
Then you lose that, and then it's like whoa. So the emotional toll from that was a lot.
That was bigger. That was significantly more for me. Now you were at the Titans game, but that was significantly more that was just because that you're going to the Super Bowl, man. Like that was crushing. And to be able to get back to that position next year, again, speaks to the leadership of the team. To be able to get back there and win in New England, gosh, like that was a miracle trip. And I don't know if it's going to be an equal miracle trip this year, but anything can happen, man. And hopefully we're having this conversation again next week, playing for a game against the Bills.
Yeah, we'll have, one way or another, we will be having a reaction episode after the divisional round. No matter what, we will have a reaction episode. So, look, if the unimaginable tragedy happens, then folks are going to be able to join us in mourning. And assuming that the team does what the team is supposed to do and capable of doing, then we will have a celebratory episode, and then we will get ready for the AFC Championship Game. So, we got plenty ahead here, one way or the other.
Yeah.
And I wanted to close out with one more stat. So before I do that, though, did you have anything else you wanted to touch on? Anything else you wanted to cover before we started to wrap this thing up?
Nope. Unsung hero might be Nelson. Might be Nelson Aguilar. So
Nelson Aguilar. Okay,
with all the focus being on the named players, I think he could be sneaky good.
Okay, I like that, and he's a good player. He's come up really good for us in crucial moments this year. Not the stats aren't huge or anything, but man, at a couple key points, he finds a way to get open, get that first down, whatever the case may be. I am going to close the show on this stat that I found. There are 3 teams in NFL history who have scored 25 or more points per game while leading the NFL in rushing offense and scoring defense. It's only happened 3 times. So again, scoring more than 25 points a game, leading the NFL in rushing offense and scoring defense. One time was the 1972 Dolphins, who went undefeated. Okay. One was the 85 Bears, and the other is the 2023 Ravens. Those
Wow.
other two teams won the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
So the Ravens, this year's Ravens, are the only other team in NFL history to accomplish that feat. And the other two won the Super Bowl. So, you know, those types of numbers, when you have that kind of, I mean, just the stats, you're a high scoring team. You're averaging over 25 points a game. You lead the NFL in rushing offense and scoring defense. I mean, you got to be a good team if you're accomplishing that. And you look at the other two teams, I mean, that's world-class company to be in. And
Yep.
yeah, the Ravens are that third team.
And you would think that would make me feel more confident, but it just makes me more scared.
Yeah, I know.
Like,
it just raises the stakes that much higher.
Dang it. We're going to be
We
the
don't wanna
ones
be
that
the
blow
first
it.
one.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah.
You know, you and I talked about this. Even if we don't make it, heck of a year. Really a fun year to be a Ravens fan coming out of last year, and how many question marks there were last year with Lamar's contract, and are we able to get him weapons? To see us turn the corner so quickly from last year to this year, not just in our success for wins and losses, but in the culture of the team. Really feels good to be a Ravens fan, and if we don't win on Saturday, if we don't make it to the Super Bowl, still very proud to be a Ravens fan.
Absolutely. Well said. Perfectly said. I will not add to it. Excellent. We appreciate everybody checking us out. Again, the Purple Perch, man. Like and subscribe on YouTube. Follow us on X. We just got our Facebook page up and running as well. There's going to be a lot of cool stuff, even beyond this season, for the Purple Perch. So, you know, make sure you check us out. Make sure you subscribe and all of that stuff. We got plenty of good stuff coming your way. So, and also check out last week's interview with Matt Stover.
So fun.
Super cool dude. Really fun time with him. Super generous with his time and his stories and his knowledge. So, yeah, that's definitely worth a listen to as well. And go ahead.
Real quick, did you? I know this is running long here, but did you check out Marlon Humphrey's podcast and his conversation?
I've seen clips. I haven't seen the whole thing.
Did you see the conversation with Odell Beckham?
Parts of it.
Okay.
About the contract and everything.
About the contract.
Yes.
That was fantastic. Like,
Yes.
what's it going to take you to stay? And this offer's off the table if you board the plane. Like, that is like, love it. I think.
I mentioned it earlier, right? Eric DaCosta.
Eric
I talked
DaCosta,
about
man.
it. Like that's because that's a team operating from a mentality of abundance.
Yep.
They don't have a poverty mentality.
Yep.
They're not looking at it like, we'll do anything. Yeah, sure, take all the meetings you want. We'll be here. It's like, no, we're going to make this happen. And if you get on the plane, forget it. We'll get somebody else. And what did it do? Just like it always does, it attracted Odell to the team. It did not repel him. It didn't push him away. It drew him in. That's what always works when you come from a position of strength.
Yeah.
And Eric DaCosta has shown time and time again that the Ravens have the ability to come from a position of strength, not as a bully, but to work it out. They did the same exact thing we mentioned earlier with Lamar, right? It was a standoff. They said all the right things. They did all the right things, but they were firm in their beliefs. They were firm in what they said, and they told Lamar, go look. Go out and find it. If there's a better deal, go find it. They did it in a respectful way, but they stood firm in what they believed and how they valued him, and it all worked out like it usually does in those situations. And it was brilliantly played, and I just think that bodes incredibly well for the future. We don't have time to get into it, but when you think about the number of people that were so scared with Ozzie Newsome stepping aside and Eric DaCosta was like, how in the world could this continue? We've had one of, if not the best front office in football, literally since we started to exist as a franchise.
Yep.
How in the world could this historic, legendary GM step aside and then this other guy step in and fill his shoes? And, look, it's still relatively early, but DaCosta has done an absolutely killer job. And,
Brilliant succession plan.
Yes.
And willing to pay your assistant GM money. Like we paid him to stay. And the success of the team, I think, in the culture said, okay, if you're going to pay me this kind of coin to be the assistant, then to be the number two in this spot, then one, you feel valued. Two, you have a future. You don't have to uproot your family. You love the organization. Like, there's just so much to that as far as just top-down leadership. Really impressed. Really impressed.
No, it's such respect, and it's respect for the position, it's respect for the person, it's respect for their role. It's great. So I love the way the team carries themselves and handles their business. That's an important part that a lot of times gets overlooked. with teams. We hear about and see the ones that don't operate well, but we don't always think to give credit to the ones that do operate well. And there's a big gulf. There's a big divide there between the bad teams and the good teams, and it starts at the top.
Well, and Harbaugh's been with us for a while. I don't know what conversations are, but I would not be shocked if he is looking at a 5 to 7 year plan to retire or to walk away. I wouldn't be shocked if we're having conversations with Mike McDonald going, hey, you're going to get offers for head coach. Just stay with us and be part of that.
That'll be the big
plan.
question. Yeah, that'll be the big question. We know that's probably what happened with Josh McDaniels and Bill Belichick. And then he got tired of waiting, and then he was a disaster, and then he came back, and then he got tired of waiting, and he went. He was a disaster, and then he came back. And so the prodigal son keeps on returning. And now there's every possibility that if Bill Belichick does go to Atlanta, that he's going to reassemble all of the old gang. So it's going to be Josh McDaniels, Joe Judge, Matt Patricia, because all of them have failed. They've failed everywhere else they've gone, and they're all available. Nobody wants to hire them. So, he's got every ability to get them all back together.
And Tom Brady will come and play for the Falcons just out of spite. Just salt in the wound. 28-3, salt in the wound. That'd be fantastic. You have to cheer for me now. I'm your quarterback. That'd be awesome. Well, hey, good talking, man. It's gonna be good.
Man, that's it for us. Again, everybody enjoy the game. Saturday, 4:30 Eastern. It is going to be a slobber knocker. So let's enjoy it. Let's have fun. Let's hope that next time we all see and talk to each other, we'll be celebrating another Ravens win. And keep the fingers crossed, keep the jerseys pressed, and we'll look forward to talking with you soon. Thanks, everybody.